Now we have Tom and Anthony, and Sandamali is on Zoom, I believe. Somewhere. Hey, gentlemen.
Okay.
Lady doing it.
All good. Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. Thank you very much for having us today. My name is Tom Chesterton and I'm the chairperson of the Property Council South Highland Committee. And I have Anthony Goff with me, the Managing Director of the Terrace. And as you rightly said, Sandamali's online, who's part of our advocacy team. Property is the largest industry in Canterbury. There are around $245.5 billion in property assets across Canterbury, with property providing a direct contribution to GDP of $4.5 billion and employment for over 34,000 Canterbury residents. We thank you for the opportunity to have our say on the Development Contribution Policy Review. Property Council believe that it is important to equitably distribute the costs of new infrastructure. However, we strongly oppose the significant increases to development contribution fees. In some areas, the draft DC policy proposes increases up to 271% from 2021. This will negatively impact development, resulting in less development, less investment, less employment, less housing, and ultimately less revenue for Christchurch City Council through the rates paying base. While we understand that the Local Government Act requires a review of the development contribution policy every 3 years, the timing of this review is significant. It comes right before the government's planned overhaul of development contribution fees, which will be replaced with development levies, and with legislation enabling these new levies set to take effect in September 2025, just 6 months away. We must consider the future implications of these proposed changes. That's why today we're calling on Christchurch City Council to pause its development contributions review until the new levy system is in place. The pauses make sense. It would reduce the pressure on council resources in the meantime and offer certainty to developers, keeping things as they are before the plan changes take effect. If Christchurch City Council doesn't pause this review, we're concerned that it could create a situation where developments are stalled until the new system is up and running. The uncertainty of transitioning between two systems in less than a year could very well discourage development across the city. Furthermore, we're concerned that the proposed increases could have serious implications for development in Christchurch. While we agree that the industry should contribute fairly, the proposed changes could make development significantly harder and more expensive. For example, we heard anecdotally that some in the development community are facing an average increase of $15,000 per HUI/residential development, a 122% increase in development contribution fees for a multi-use development project, and a 356% increase in development contribution fees for a large-scale townhouse project. We wonder whether Christchurch City Council has also had conversations with the development community and understands the potential repercussions of the proposed increases. Turning to the critical issue that impacts everyone across Christchurch, housing affordability, we are concerned that the proposed increases may restrict the supply of new homes and ultimately the ratepayer base, limit the intensification, and 3, push up housing costs, and 4, will reduce overall housing affordability at a time when we desperately need to be increasing Christchurch's housing supply, particularly of affordable housing, and streamlining development. We are potentially creating a perfect storm that could have the opposite effect. Property Council's Property Impact Report shows that the property sector provides employment over 34,000 Canterbury residents. A significant portion of these workers will be employed and live in Christchurch. Having a development contribution policy that makes development unfeasible will have direct implications for employment, with numerous flow-on effects to the multitude of professional services and subcontractors that work on new developments. We also strongly recommend that Christchurch City Council investigates alternate funding and financing tools such as the special purpose vehicles, targeted rates, or public-private partnerships. All of these additional tools are transparent, beneficiary pays funding models for local government that are more equitable ratepayers. In conclusion, what we're asking for is not a new concept, a pause and extension. Christchurch City Council is no stranger to an extension, given the extensions we have seen in Plan Change 14 and we've seen extensions granted in regions across the country. For example, in Auckland, with Auckland's Council's Plan Change 78 extended first under Minister Parker and again under Minister Bishop. More recently, Hamilton City Council has decided to pause the annual plan consultation this year until the Waters Done Well consultation concludes. Instead of proceeding with the current review, we recommend the Council focus its resources on evaluating the new development levy system once it is introduced, rather than making changes to the existing development contributions policy, which is set to be overhauled within the next year. Revising the current policy amid this impending transition would only create further uncertainty for the development community. Developers will be left unsure about the future framework, complicating planning and investment decisions. This lack of clarity has potential to create the perfect storm, resulting in delays, increased costs, and hesitation in moving projects forward, ultimately stalling development in the region. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, as this gives our members a chance to have their say for the future of our region. We're happy to take any questions.
Absolutely. No, that's good. Doesn't appear to be any, so if you'd like to carry on with your next one, please.
Annual plan? You're happy with that? Yep. So thank you. We wish to thank the Christchurch City Council for the opportunity to submit on the Christchurch City Council's draft annual plan 25-26, as this gives our members a chance to have their say in the future of our city. Christchurch City Council has proposed a rates increase of 8.2% for commercial ratepayers. While this is slightly lower than last year's forecasted 8.48% increase, it's still a sizable jump. We're concerned that the operational expenditure for 25-26 is projected to be 17.5 million, higher than expected. It's crucial that local councils operate efficiently and forecast accurately. When discrepancies like this happen, it raises questions about how well finances are being managed, and that's something that could impact the trust in ratepayers have in Christchurch City Council. We strongly suggest that Christchurch City Council review and improve how they forecast their costs. Businesses and developers in Christchurch are facing mounting costs. These are just one-off fees, but ongoing charges that could hurt businesses and discourage investment in the city. If businesses start to feel like they're being squeezed too much, it could drive them away, and that would hurt everyone. Here's a list of some of the proposed increases and fees that businesses are facing. A 7.5% increase in general rates, an 8.2% increase for businesses, a business rate differential of 2.22, a vacant site differential of 4.523, proposed hikes in development contribution fees, and increased insurance costs. We recommend Christchurch City Council looks into the cumulative impact of all these rates and fees on the commercial sector. There needs to be a thorough understanding of how these charges are affecting businesses before making any final decisions. Alternative funding methods are also something we'd like to see Christchurch City Council explore. Instead of relying solely on rates, we believe there's a place for more transparent user pay funding models. These could include things like targeted rates or special funding vehicles. Regarding business differentials and the vacant site differential, we've consistently opposed these. The problem with these differentials is that the businesses don't know exactly where their money is going, leading to a lack of transparency and concerns about fairness. That's why we're happy to see no increase in the proposed annual plan, but we still have concerns about how these differentials are applied, especially the vacant site differential. When it was first introduced, the goal was to beautify vacant sites in the CBD, but since then, it's been extended to more areas such as New Brighton, Sydenham and Littleton. And we think it's time for a review. If beautification has already been done in the initial areas, then it's time to phase out these charges in those areas. We're currently waiting for a reply to our OIA request about the differential and how the funds have been collected, have been spent, and where they're being used for beautification projects as originally intended. On another front, regional deals are something we'd love to see Christchurch City Council explore. It's a shame that Christchurch City Council did not make an application for the regional deal with central government. Having greater financial support and investment from central government will drive improved infrastructure outcomes across Christchurch. Regarding traffic management in the city centre, this is a significant issue for our members. Over the past few years, we've seen a number of changes that have affected how people can get around, and we've raised concern about this. Manchester Street became a priority bus route. Park Terrace has been reduced to a single lane, and there's been a loss of parking around key areas like the One Stadium. These changes are not only impacting traffic flow, but also the businesses that they rely on people coming into the city. Since the 2011 earthquakes, the private sector investment has poured into the CBD to help revitalise it, but these changes are starting to undermine the investment. If this continues, we risk turning the CBD into a place that people don't want to visit, shop, or do business in. We really need to find a balance and ensure that the business community has a chance to provide feedback on these changes, especially as many of the temporary changes are becoming permanent. In conclusion, we're all for a well-designed, sustainable Christchurch. However, we're worried about the rising costs for businesses, the challenges in traffic management, and the overall burden on fees and rates. We continue to oppose the vacant land rate differential and urge Christchurch City Council to carefully consider the cumulative impact of these increases. We need to be thoughtful with spending and working towards a future that benefits everyone. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Yanni, you got your hand up there, bud?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the submission. I was interested in your comments around the vacant site differential, and just wondered if you had any thoughts on we've got this real issue with derelict properties within the city that just sit there becoming eyesores at huge concern to local residents, and then generally they end up catching fire and burning down, and then still stay there for quite a while, creating sometimes further fires and concern in the community. Have you got any thoughts about things we could do to encourage property owners to deal with those issues in a more timely way? Because currently they're a real issue of concern, and I know that you're talking about the vacant sites, which is, some of the, in the past when we've looked at it, has also been some derelict buildings in the central city as well. So just really interested in any thoughts on how we could do more in that space if we took away the differential.
Any comments on that? No. Sandy, have you got comments on that?
I just had a question as well. Have you had conversations with the owners of those sites? I mean, sometimes these development processes can take a really long time. So just wondering if they're derelict at the moment, but there are plans in motion. Sorry,
Repeatedly people have tried to reach out to owners. Sometimes they struggle to find the owners. Sometimes they struggle to get timely responses. But, I mean, you can just go around the suburbs and you can see a number of these sites that cause huge angst in local communities, and the tools that we have to deal with them seem very ineffective.
Yeah.
Okay.
My point on
Celeste,
it,
please.
Thank you for your presentation. Just speaking about the vacant land differential, are you able to expand on that? Because it hasn't long been in place in a lot of those suburban areas like New Brighton, and what we know from seeing the feedback from some of the people in that space is that actually it's having quite a positive impact. Can you speak more to your concerns? Because I'm not clear on what the downside is at the moment.
partly was where the money was being spent,
So that's
and
specific
on the
to that part.
beautification specifically. And it's really more about the ideal situation is to develop these sites, and the number of things stopping that happening. Removing that would be the ideal situation, right? This is just another impact on those land owners.
And I guess the follow-up to Councillor Johansson's question around the derelict sites, what we know is that we have engaged with quite a lot of the landowners, and actually the challenge is that we don't have many tools to bring people to that conversation in a more proactive way. So do you have any sort of thoughts as to, particularly around the derelict buildings, what would incentivise developers to kind of make progress in areas that they've effectively done nothing for decades?
Could I comment that a number of these are overseas owners who really are not interested in Christchurch one iota. So that's why you find that places like the Noah's Hotel, that has now been renovated, was owned by a Chinese company. It's now owned locally. It really needs local input. Most local people get on with the job. Overseas people don't. So we've got an ownership problem with those. So I think, one thing I do object to is when somebody has a vacant site and they've upgraded it, put nice landscaping in, why should they be paying a differential then? Do they just, well, I should-
I don't think they are they?
You know, it's when it's tidied up, you don't, I'm sure.
that's good.
We'll let you know that exactly though, Anthony. Just check, we'll let you know. Okay, that is brilliant. Thank you so much, and thank you, Sandamali, for being online. And
Thank you.
we will be back here at 2:35.